All right, let's dive into a really powerful story from Islamic tradition. It's an incredible account of desperation, of faith, and what our actions are truly worth when our backs are against the wall.
So let me ask you something. Just think about it for a second. What if your entire life depended on your one best deed? Not your money, not your strength, not what people think of you. Just one single, sincere act you did when no one else was watching. What would you choose? This isn't just some philosophical question. For three men, this became terrifyingly real.
Okay, so our story kicks off with a simple journey, but things are about to go sideways fast.
So picture this. You've got three guys just traveling together, minding their own business.
And then out of nowhere, this massive storm just rolls in. They do the smart thing, right? They duck into a nearby cave to wait it out. A moment of relief, or so they thought. And that's when it happens. Boom! A gigantic boulder, knocked loose by the storm, comes crashing down and completely blocks the entrance. Just like that, they're sealed in, plunged into darkness, totally cut off from the world.
I mean, can you even imagine? They're completely trapped. They throw all their weight against this rock, but it's useless. It won't even budge an inch. And in that moment, they realize their strength means absolutely nothing here. They are utterly helpless. So they figure out there's only one way out. They decide to turn to God. The plan? Each man would pray and call upon the single most sincere, selfless deed he had ever done, an act done purely for God, and beg for a miracle.
So the first man steps up. His story, well, it's all about his incredible devotion to his parents. The core of his story is this idea of righteousness, or bear. For him, that meant this deep, deep devotion to his parents. See, he had this one rule. He never, ever broke. Every single night, he served his elderly parents their milk before anyone else. We're talking before his own kids, before his wife, no exceptions. They always came first. But of course, a rule like that is bound to be tested. And one night, it was. He gets home super late from the fields, and he finds his parents are already fast asleep. He's got their milk ready, but at the same time, his own kids are literally at his feet, crying because they're so hungry. What do? It's an impossible choice.
He made his choice. He just couldn't bring himself to wake his parents. But he also couldn't feed his kids before them. So he just stood there all night long with a bowl of milk in his hand, just waiting right beside them until the sun came up. That was his deed. An entire night of pure, patient, silent devotion.
So he finishes his prayer, recalling this act of pure sincerity, and you won't believe it. The rock actually moves. It grinds and shifts, and a tiny sliver of light cuts through the darkness. But it's not enough. Not even close. They still can't get out. So there's this flicker of hope, but they're still very much trapped. Okay, so one good deed wasn't going to cut it. Now it's the second man's turn. And his story is a whole different kind of test. This one is about conscience, about a moment where his own desires went head-to-head with his fear of God.
So this guy, he admits that he was deeply in love with his cousin. He desired her, but she always refused him. Then, one day, she falls on really hard times. She's desperate for money and comes to him for help. He sees this as his chance. He offers her 120 gold coins, which was a ton of money, but with one very clear condition.
Backed into a corner, she agrees. But right at that critical moment, just as he's about to cross that line, she looks him in the eye and says this. She's basically begging him, fear God. Don't do this the wrong way. She's appealing directly to his faith, to his conscience.
And those words, they hit him like a lightning bolt. A sudden, overwhelming fear of God just washed over him. He stopped instantly, got up, and not only left her alone, but he told her to keep all the money. Just like that, in that moment, he chose his faith over his desires, purely for God's sake. He finishes his prayer, and what do you know? The rock moves again. It scrapes and groans, and the opening gets bigger. You can imagine the hope surging through them, but it's still not enough. They can see more light, but they still can't get out. 2 down, 1 to go. All right, everything is now riding on this third man, and his story is different. It's not about family, love, or battling personal demons. It's about something maybe even harder: pure, unwavering honesty and trust. Here's what happened. He said he hired some workers, and when it was time to get paid, one guy just left, disappeared without collecting his wages. Now, most people would have just pocketed the money, right? Not this guy. He took that single wage and invested it. And over the years, he managed it so well that it grew into an absolute fortune. We're talking herds of livestock, servants, the whole shebang.
So get this. Years and years go by, and the original laborer comes back. He's old now, down on his luck, and he just asks for that one small wage he never collected. The employer just points out to all the fields filled with animals and wealth and says, all of that, it's yours. The laborer's shocked, he thinks the guy's making fun of him, but the employer insists, no, seriously, this is all the profit from your wage. I invested it for you. Take it all. And he did. He gave him every last bit of it, keeping nothing for himself.
And as soon as the third man finished his prayer about this incredible act of integrity, the boulder rolled all the way open. The path was clear, and the three men just walked out into the sunlight, free. So what's going on here? What's the takeaway from all this?
Well, there's a really clear pattern when you look at it. Each story has the same three parts. First, you have a truly sincere deed, something done just for God, when nobody's watching, not for any kind of praise. Second, you have a moment of absolute rock-bottom desperation, where you call on that deed as your proof of faith. And third, you get the divine response. It's this powerful reminder that it's not about how big your action is. It's about how pure your intention was when you did it.
Think about it. The son's loyalty, the man's self-control, the employer's unbelievable honesty. No single one of those deeds was enough to move the whole rock on its own. It was like each man held a different key. Only when they put all three keys together could they finally unlock the way out and find salvation.
And that really brings us right back to where we started. If you were in that cave, when all other doors are closed and everything else has failed, what story would you tell? What's that one act, known only to you and to God, that you could present? It's a profound thought, right? It kind of makes you reevaluate your own actions, not based on who's watching, but on what they're truly worth.